Joining me now is Eric Schmidt, founder of China Entrepreneurs. It's a professional organization dedicated to encouraging the growth of entrepreneurship in the country. You just watched that piece with me. Here's a pretty inspired kid. I think the metaphor of boxing, it really is a fight to be successful as an entrepreneur anywhere. Talk to me about what resources are available, especially for somebody in a remote area like that.
Sure. So obviously, places like Xinjiang are sort of at the sort of beginning point of really what is possible when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Developed cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. Certainly resources have been there for the last 10 years, and certainly the trend of entrepreneurship has become certainly a thing, right? But as you look in places that are underdeveloped, places like Xinjiang, certainly there's a lot more challenges to just getting things started, getting things off the ground.
Yeah, you said a thing, and it's interesting. I want to maybe talk to you about the environment. As I mentioned to you, I was at an event here in Washington, D.C. A lot of hand-wringing about how do we get the entrepreneurs up and running. It seems like that, I was just in Hangzhou for the G20 summit. Doesn't seem to be as much of an issue there. Maybe it's just a perception on my part, but that's the home of Jack Ma. And one of the people I was talking to said, 5 years ago, people wanted to work for Jack Ma. Today, they want to be Jack Ma. It seems like there's this kind of belief system that it can happen there. Can you talk to me about that?
For sure. I mean, certainly Jack Ma, amongst others, has really created this new next generation of entrepreneurs that really is trying to create their own. Certainly over the last, I would say even 5 years, people coming out of school, the lack of job opportunities that existed for them as fresh graduates, they then have decided, well, I have a degree in computer science, I can develop mobile apps, I'm going to go start my own and, see what happens. That therefore, has really created this next generation of entrepreneurs, people who want to be the next Jack Ma's, because now they can believe. They believe it's possible. It's not just, hey, I'm a real estate developer and I need a bunch of capital to buy land and build a building. It's I can build something using my brain.
So talk to me, we're looking at a young man who's doing something rather dramatic, trying to create something. What is the employment outlook for regions like that if you're not creating your own thing?
Yeah, it's definitely not necessarily easy. Obviously the government is putting a lot of new resources into places like Xinjiang to try to create jobs. Xinjiang is obviously in a place where, it is the old Silk Road, and trying to recreate it now as part of the new Silk Road that, China's been promoting for the last year and a half or so, has really tried to push, new opportunities into places like Xinjiang so that young people do have opportunities that they didn't necessarily have without those, investments, without the opportunities, and people really trying to create things on their own rather than going to work for a state-owned enterprise, which has been a thing of the past.
Yeah, and talk to me about the demand in China. Where do you see that as far as jobs?
It's still in the big cities. I think that's the reality. Young people want to live in big cities now. Obviously, the government's push people into cities, away from farms, away from the countryside. Therefore, people are concentrated and really trying to get them into the larger cities. Everybody, people want to go to second, third tier cities, but the reality is still the big cities are really where people want to live.
Talk to me about China and this transformation, ginning up an entire economy and kind of flipping it. Used to be that you go and you work at a manufacturing job. Now you got a lot of young people wanting to work at Baidu or Alibaba, that sort of thing.
Sure, and and I think that's certainly something people want. Obviously, there's limited opportunities there. So as you look at the second, third tier cities, it's really a matter of what opportunities exist there. Are there enough opportunities for young people today? I think most people would say there's still not enough, but that's really the push for entrepreneurship in this next wave of at least the government putting more incentives for people to start their own businesses, because they know that small businesses, entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to create those jobs in the next basically 20 years for the next growth of China.
And for somebody who's on the ground watching this sort of thing, what gives you encouragement?
It's amazing, just being in a place like Beijing, just the energy, the feeling that people have that they want to do something on their own, that they can really have a say in their future. Whereas, 30 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. People have the belief that anything is possible, sort of that American dream sort of now transplanted in China, which is now considered the Chinese dream, in their own sort of right, but still trying to make it, and still really, if you sit in a place like Beijing, you can feel the energy, feel not only the young people, but people who have been there trying to, go out on their own. And again, that really has been a transformation over the last 10 years. 15 years ago, that wasn't necessarily what people were thinking about. People were thinking about, I'm going to go work for somebody, and that's it.
Yeah, get that gold watch after 30 years. Nobody's doing that anymore.
Nobody's doing that anymore.
Eric Schmidt, thanks so much.
Not a problem.